hidden beneath the sun-scorched sands of the desert, lost for countless centuries and nearly erased from human memory, an extraordinary discovery emerged from the rugged hills of Jordan. A find so remarkable that it has the potential to challenge and transform everything we once believed about the Bible, the roots of Christianity, and even the very history of humankind itself. These were not the typical relics that archaeologists occasionally unearth. What researchers stumbled upon were 70 minuscule ancient books, each no larger than a modern-day credit card, crafted from lead and copper, sealed tightly, and cloaked in mysterious symbols. Unlike any biblical manuscript ever found before, these artifacts seem to whisper forgotten secrets of an ancient world. Before we journey deeper into this fascinating and breathtaking archaeological revelation, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can continue to unveil the hidden stories and untold truths buried across the ancient world, one discovery at a time. The story begins in the year 2011, when the Jewish Chronicle first brought the world's attention to a startling report. Dozens of enigmatic books had been unearthed inside an isolated cave in Jordan's arid landscape. What set these items apart was not just their age or their origin, but their very construction. They were not composed of fragile parchment or delicate papyrus, as one might expect from relics of that era. Instead, these were solid, metallic codices, intricate tiny books forged from sheets of lead and copper, some held together by small rings, others firmly sealed shut, their contents hidden from sight for untold centuries. From the moment of discovery, speculation grew wildly. Could these curious objects actually predate the earliest surviving copies of biblical texts? Could they be an authentic link to the dawn of Christian faith itself? Among the first scholars to engage with this astonishing find was David Elkington, a British historian and archaeologist, who quickly became one of the leading figures in the early investigation of these codices. Reflecting on the experience, Elkington expressed profound reverence. "It is an enormous privilege to work with material of this magnitude," he shared. "To hold in your hands something that might once have been touched by the earliest saints of the Church, it is nothing short of breathtaking." The 70 metallic codices, also referred to as codices, were adorned with ancient inscriptions rendered in Paleo-Hebrew, Aramaic, and early Greek, languages that carried the voice of antiquity across the ages. The symbols and images etched onto their surfaces were even more tantalizing. Depictions of 7-branched menorahs, graceful palm trees, radiant 8-pointed stars, ceremonial temple vessels, and a striking crown of thorns, all unmistakably invoking deep connections to both Jewish traditions and early Christian belief. Yet there was an even more staggering revelation hidden among them. One particular image captured the attention of scholars around the world, a portrait that many believe could represent Jesus himself, portrayed with a crown of thorns resting upon his brow. Beside this haunting depiction, an inscription was found, boldly declaring, "Savior of Israel." This singular artifact stirred profound questions among the academic community. Was it possible that the artist who crafted this image had seen Jesus in person? Or perhaps they lived in a time so close to his life that his memory had not yet faded into distant legend. The implications were staggering. The contents of these metal books went beyond images. They contained coded writings, enigmatic symbols, and sacred names, some of which appeared to correspond directly with pivotal events recorded in the New Testament. One book even referenced a figure named Simon alongside Jesus, a detail that could point to Simon of Cyrene, the man who, according to Mark 15:21, was compelled to help carry the cross of Christ. Others speculated that this Simon might instead be Simon bar Kokhba, the leader of the Jewish rebellion against Rome in the 2nd century. Regardless of the exact identification, the presence of these names suggested that the artifacts dated astonishingly close to the earliest formative years of Christianity itself. Even the Book of Revelation seemed to echo the reality of these discoveries. In Revelation 5:1, the Apostle John writes, "Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written on both sides and sealed with 7 seals." Dr. Margaret Barker, a respected scholar and former president of the Society for Old Testament Study, was among those who immediately drew parallels between John's vision of the sealed scrolls and the codices found in Jordan. "We have never seen anything like this," she declared. "These books could represent one of the most significant breakthroughs in biblical archaeology to date." However, the remarkable discovery quickly found itself at the center of a complex international controversy. The artifacts had been secretly taken out of Jordan by an Israeli Bedouin, who asserted that they had been in his family for generations, handed down from his great-grandfather. This claim led to a fierce and bitter dispute between Israel and Jordan, both nations vying for rightful ownership of the relics. Despite the geopolitical tension, researchers pressed onward, determined to uncover the truth about these mysterious books. Skeptics, however, voiced serious doubts. Some experts warned that the codices might be elaborate modern forgeries, perhaps nothing more than cleverly designed souvenirs intended to deceive. In response, a team of 9 independent scholars, entirely separate from David Elkington, came together to scrutinize the artifacts. Their group included metallurgists, linguists, historians, and biblical language specialists, among them Professor Robert Hayward, a distinguished Hebrew scholar. Their mission was clear: determine beyond any reasonable doubt whether these books were genuine relics of the ancient world. The first line of investigation focused on the material itself. Lead has a unique property. It gradually absorbs radiation from the environment over time. However, following the atomic bomb tests of 1945, modern metals became contaminated with detectable levels of radioactive particles. If the lead used in the codices showed no trace of such contamination, it would serve as strong evidence of genuine antiquity. Professor Roger Webb of the University of Surrey conducted the tests, and the results were definitive. "When we analyzed the metal," Webb confirmed, "we found no trace of modern radioactivity. This means the lead is indeed ancient." Further metallurgical analysis reinforced the authenticity claim. The codices were made of lead filled with impurities and featuring crystalline voids, natural formations that occur only after centuries of oxidation. Moreover, tests revealed that the metal matched the composition of Roman-era lead, known for its distinctive properties. With growing confidence, the scholars concluded these artifacts were neither modern fabrications nor recent inventions. They were truly old, and possibly revolutionary. As scholars pored over the intricate images inside the codices, they encountered a vivid array of symbols, some immediately recognizable, others cloaked in mystery. One particularly evocative image depicted a cross positioned before what seemed to be a tomb, surrounded by ancient city walls in the background. Professor Philip Davies of Sheffield University remarked that this was a striking representation of Jesus' crucifixion outside the walls of Jerusalem, a visual echo of the gospel narratives themselves. If authentic, this portrayal could fundamentally reshape our understanding of how the earliest Christians commemorated the pivotal events of their faith. Equally fascinating was the appearance of the 7-branched menorah, an image that Jewish tradition holds as sacred, having been placed within the holiest sanctuary of the Jerusalem temple, a site only permitted to the high priest. To depict it openly, especially during that era, was strictly forbidden. Yet, here it was, cast into lead for eternity, suggesting a spiritual boldness and a theological message we are only beginning to decipher. But a profound question continues to stir among scholars and seekers alike. How could these early followers of Christ, living so close to the chaotic fall of the Second Temple, have known such intricate details about sacred imagery that had been hidden away from public view for generations? How could they have captured depictions that, according to ancient Jewish tradition, only the high priests were permitted to witness within the most sacred inner courts of the temple? Some researchers have proposed a fascinating theory, that these mysterious books may not have been the work of ordinary believers at all, but rather of exiled priests, former guardians of the temple's deepest secrets, who had preserved and transmitted their knowledge through oral tradition and clandestine writings after the destruction of Jerusalem. Dr. Margaret Barker, an esteemed scholar of ancient Jewish and Christian traditions, offered critical insights into this possibility. She noted that the patterns and symbols found within these codices mirror the theological framework of the temple, its sacred art, its rituals, and its cosmology. According to Dr. Barker, this striking resemblance suggests that the creators of these lead books were likely individuals intimately familiar with the temple's inner mysteries, priests or scribes, who, after the temple's catastrophic fall, sought to safeguard the essence of their sacred tradition by recording it in a form that would endure even through exile and persecution. These books, she proposed, might represent a hidden spiritual archive, a secret continuation of the temple's theology by those determined to ensure it would not be extinguished from the earth. Yet, for all the revelations these artifacts have offered, an even deeper enigma remains unsolved, one that continues to puzzle even the most seasoned experts. Why were so many of the codices sealed shut? What secrets were deemed so sacred, so dangerous, that they had to be hidden away behind barriers of metal? Dr. Barker provided a compelling possibility, one that opens the door to a world of spiritual mystery and forbidden knowledge. She suggested that some of these sealed texts could very well contain teachings that Jesus himself entrusted only to his closest followers, a body of secret wisdom intended for his inner circle, wisdom that might have been too radical, too sensitive, or too easily misused if exposed to the wider world during a time of relentless Roman oppression. In a world where Christians faced brutal persecution, where sacred texts could be confiscated or destroyed, hiding such writings would have been not merely a precaution, but an act of survival. The sealed books, then, could represent more than forgotten theology. They might be a direct link to the earliest, most intimate expressions of Christian belief, teachings passed quietly from heart to heart, generation to generation, surviving not in grand cathedrals, but in the hidden, unbreakable faith of a people determined to protect what was most precious. And so the mystery deepens. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verse 11, Jesus offered his disciples a cryptic yet profound promise. The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. This declaration has long fascinated theologians and scholars alike, raising timeless questions. What were these hidden secrets that Jesus entrusted only to his closest followers? Could it be possible that the sealed codices unearthed in the Jordanian desert contain fragments of that sacred, concealed knowledge? Insights meant for those who walked closest with Christ, yet deliberately withheld from the broader world? Some scholars have taken this possibility even further, suggesting that the codices may not have been written solely for the purpose of being read in the traditional sense. Instead, they may have functioned as spiritual talismans, sacred objects imbued with divine symbolism, crafted to protect and to testify to the deepest truths of the faith without ever needing to reveal their contents. Much like ancient amulets or relics, these sealed books could have served as powerful affirmations of belief, carried or kept by the faithful as shields of hope during a time of profound danger and persecution. David Elkington, the British historian and archaeologist who played a pivotal role in bringing these extraordinary artifacts to public attention, has repeatedly emphasized the magnitude of this discovery. These books, he asserted, are a monumental find for Christianity. They might predate even the earliest known letters of St. Paul, pushing them back to the very first breaths of Christian history itself. Such a possibility stirs the imagination, offering a glimpse into an era so close to Christ's life and ministry that the memory of his words and deeds would have still burned brightly in the hearts of his followers. However, Elkington also issued a grave warning, one that casts a shadow over the excitement surrounding the find. The greatest danger now facing this unparalleled treasure is the threat of fragmentation. There is an ever-present risk that the collection could be divided, sold off piece by piece into the murky corners of the black market, where priceless historical relics vanish into private hands, never to be studied or seen again. We must protect it, Elkington urged, and we must study it as a whole. If it is broken up, the context, and perhaps the greatest truths it holds, could be lost forever. Indeed, the fear is not hypothetical. Already, some of the precious books have disappeared from public view, slipping beyond the reach of researchers and scholars who had hoped to unlock their secrets. Around the world, voices from the academic and archaeological communities are rising in urgent appeal, calling for international cooperation to safeguard what remains of the collection. Only by preserving the codices together, they argue, can we hope to piece together the full story they are trying to tell. And so, what does all this ultimately mean? If, and so far every scientific test strongly supports this, these lead codices are authentic, then they represent one of the most significant discoveries in biblical history, rivaling the Dead Sea Scrolls themselves in their potential impact. They could provide a rare and precious window into the beliefs, struggles, and spiritual treasures of some of the earliest communities who lived in the shadow of Christ's earthly ministry. They could reveal how faith was preserved, adapted, and transmitted in an era when persecution was fierce and written memory was as fragile as the lives that carried it. And perhaps, if the sealed books are ever fully opened, they will remind the world that even in the harshest deserts, even under the weight of centuries of forgetting, the light of sacred truth can endure, hidden, waiting, and ready to speak once more. These ancient lead codices, weathered by time but undiminished in their mystery, offer an extraordinarily rare glimpse into the very heart of the earliest Christian worldview. They may not simply be relics created by distant generations pondering the life of Christ from afar. There is a real possibility that they were crafted by eyewitnesses, by individuals who lived, breathed, and walked within the echoes of his life, death, and triumphant resurrection. Their hands might have trembled with awe as they recorded sacred memories, sealing them within metal covers to preserve their truth for an age yet to come. Some scholars even dare to suggest that these books may carry messages intentionally hidden away, written not merely for their own time, but for a future generation, for a people who would one day need to rediscover the enduring light of hope amidst a world darkened by uncertainty. It is a powerful thought that across the centuries, across wars, exiles, and the fall of empires, these tiny codices waited in silence until now, when their voice could finally be heard once more. The Apostle Paul, writing in his letter to the Romans, captured this same profound belief in the power of sacred writings to transcend time. In Romans 15:4, he reminded his readers, "For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the Scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope." Those words, penned nearly 2,000 years ago, feel strikingly relevant now, as the messages sealed within these ancient books begin to whisper again across the ages. Perhaps, hidden within their cryptic symbols and ancient scripts, lies a reflection of that same hope, a hope that has carried generations of believers through trials and triumphs alike. We are still at the very beginning of understanding the full message locked within these extraordinary artifacts. Each image, each inscription, each tiny page is a thread in a larger tapestry we are only just beginning to weave together. But one truth is already beyond dispute. These tiny metal books, no bigger than a credit card, carry a story far larger than their fragile frames suggest. A story that stretches from the deserts of Jordan to the very soul of Christian faith itself. As we stand at the threshold of this unfolding discovery, we turn to you, the seekers, the believers, the curious minds who yearn to understand the ancient mysteries. What do you think these remarkable codices might reveal if they were fully deciphered and studied with the care they deserve? Could they illuminate forgotten teachings, confirm long-held traditions, or even challenge our understanding of the earliest days of the faith? We invite you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments. What story do you believe these sealed books have been waiting all these centuries to tell? The journey to uncover the truth has only just begun. As we stand before the mystery of these ancient lead codices, we are reminded that history is not a closed book, but a living story still unfolding. Every discovery, every fragment of the past that emerges from the sands of time invites us to listen more closely, to wonder more deeply, and to recognize that there are still chapters of our shared story yet to be read. The codices of Jordan are not merely relics, they are messages forged in the fires of belief, hidden beneath layers of metal and time, and entrusted to the future. Whether written by exiled priests, the earliest Christian believers, or eyewitnesses to the greatest story ever told, These tiny books reach across the centuries to touch our generation with their silent but powerful voice. They urge us not to forget, not to lose sight of the foundations upon which faith was built. They call us back to a time when hope was carried in trembling hands, when faith meant risking everything, and when the memory of a man who wore a crown of thorns was too sacred, too dangerous, to entrust to parchment alone. Today, thanks to careful researchers, passionate historians, and the courage of those who refuse to let these treasures be lost or sold away piece by piece, that voice is being heard once more. But the work is far from finished. It is up to us, scholars, believers, seekers, and storytellers, to protect these artifacts, to study them with reverence, and to let their story rise anew. Perhaps, just perhaps, the unsealing of these books was no accident. Perhaps it was meant for now, for a world in desperate need of the hope, endurance, and faith they quietly embody. In a time when so much feels uncertain and fleeting, these tiny codices remind us that what is most sacred cannot be buried forever. Truth endures, faith endures, hope endures, and sometimes, hidden in the silent heart of the desert, hope waits patiently for the moment it will be found again. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the lost pages of history. If this discovery has touched your heart or sparked your imagination, we invite you to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and continue exploring with us. The past is never truly gone. It is only waiting to be remembered. And sometimes, what we find can change everything.